I think we should try something wild, and we should do the intro first up this time, especially because we have a new podcast name and I don't want to bury the lead. It's week 4 and we already have a new name. We're already renovating.
That's what happens. We started when we weren't ready and we didn't have a name. We came up with something. Now we have something that we like better.
I would drum roll, but it might reset the clap sync thing. But
I know. We don't want to mess with the audio.
What's our new name, Christelle?
Enough Talk, the podcast where we talk about how creative work actually gets made. Stop talking about it and actually make it. All right.
And the irony of this name is that we've actually stolen it from a new experience that we just launched today. And we just love the name so much that we're using it everywhere.
Yeah. I think it just gets to the core of the issue that we're solving for people, which is stop talking about it and actually make it. Mm-hmm. We don't mean to be sassy and rude and trying to criticize people by saying that, but we genuinely care about getting your ideas out of your head and into the world.
And we did that. Well, we tried to make it a little bit easier to do that by creating this portal, this action portal called Enough Talk, the action portal for creatives. And you can find it it'll be on our Instagram by the time this goes live. But basically we have made a tool where you put in answers to 10 questions about the project that you're brewing. And then at the end of that, you are going to get back a synthesis of what is actually going on, like a diagnostic of here's what you think is blocking you, but here's what actually is blocking you, and here's what it could look like as a first draft rather than a perfect version, and here's the person that you're making it for, who it's worth doing all this work for, and also what it means to you as a creative, where you will be after you have committed to this work compared to where you are at the beginning of it. So this portal gives you that synthesis back. And then, do we want to spoil the surprise? How much do we want to?
Let's just say you will take action when you go through this experience.
Because there's a plan as well.
So worth your while. And it will be linked in the show notes as well.
Oh, that's smarter. That's way better than me being like, look it up on Instagram.
Go to another app and hope for the best.
Like, just Google it. I don't know. What's your problem?
It's actually enough.talk. That's the URL.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually really easy to find.
Yeah. You just need to remember the dot.
Yeah.
But we will link it so that you don't have to type. Okay, well, we've done an intro. We've told you about Enough Talk and Enough Talk. And now we're going to talk a lot.
But what are we going to talk about? We're not talking about talking.
No.
We're talking about doing.
Which is not going to be new for you if you've been here for any of our previous episodes or spent any time in the greenhouse. But one thing we wanted to talk about today was like the physical or the actual act of starting. So a few weeks ago, we talked about how to begin even if you don't feel like you know everything yet. And we've also looked at micro habits that can help you to like build your risk appetite and get used to making moves on your work, your project. But today, I think it would be cool for us to go into like, okay, but what does that mean? We have access to so much information that figuring out how to like condense down and focus is its own beast. So I think it could be cool for us to dig into different kinds of projects and really simple ways that you can take this from existing just in your head into the first proof in the world that this thing exists. Because I know this is something that both you and I have struggled with, but also kind of obsess over in different ways.
I guess speaking to what we've noticed is a very common experience of here's an idea, here's an idea, here's an idea, goes into the Notes app, goes into your Notion, talking about it with a friend, because we have that like initial dopamine hit of something new, something novel. And often very few of those become a thing, become something that is real. So how do you get that initial idea started? There's obviously a ton of different ways. I mean, I think probably the most universal way that works with probably most ideas is somehow brain dumping absolutely everything that you've thought about it without filtering, without judging, without thinking, oh, this is silly. Because when you start filtering, you're already, if we go back to last week's episode or 2 episodes ago, you're already going to start disqualifying yourself and the idea, and we don't want to get to that point. And one thing that I've recently started doing, which helps me with this first step of brain dumping, getting like literally word vomit, everything that you can think of in relation to this, is like, what are some of the silliest ways that you can achieve this goal? And I like that question because often we start thinking, oh, that's too silly, or that's not, oh, that's not, oh. And so if you allow yourself to say all of the silliest ways in which you could achieve this, in which you can start this, and you physically have a massive exploration list, ideation of this idea, for me, that's a huge first step, because you've moved past blocking yourself, judging yourself, to taking action, putting pen to paper, typing into your Notion, and having a base to begin.
One really interesting process we went through when we were beginning the greenhouse was a brainstorming like half day where we used convergent and divergent thinking. Do you remember that? This was years ago now.
Yeah.
And I return to this quite a bit when I'm starting a new project, especially with teammates where, if you and I were like, we should open a cafe and it's really great at this one thing, we both have just seen or thought about something in our heads and gotten so excited with no idea if like the other person's thinking of like a beachside cafe or like a remote tin shed in the mountains, and then we're looking at each other confused being like, what do you mean it's like that? Like that disconnect between vision is actually a big risk when especially if you're starting something with a collaborator. And so convergent and divergent thinking is one of the ways that we started the greenhouse, when we were like, what is this? It could be anything. That's too big. And the divergent part, if you think of it like an open funnel. So diverging is where you are thinking about everything that could possibly exist. And you are not yet judging those ideas. You are just brainstorming and telling your brain that it is safe to explore, to come up with new things, to venture out of the known, to be silly, to put something down that's like totally impossible. And all of that, you can do this with like sticky notes on the wall or whatever. That happens. And then the converging part is actually a separate process where you bring in criteria. So maybe if you've got a starting budget of $500 for your project, but you allow yourself to diverge without that budget in mind. And then when it's time to be like, cool, I've got a bunch of those ideas out. Now I'm going to look at what's feasible, what is practical, what is a strategic next move based on time, resources, energy, access. Bringing those filters in allow you to then pull those ideas through in a convergent way to see which ideas last. But if you weren't doing that in a separate process, you wouldn't put the thing that costs $5,000 on the board yet, because you'd be like, it's too expensive. And so that idea is actually lost, which could contribute to a future version or could contribute to a way to like solve that problem without $5,000 through a different solution that you haven't found yet. So yeah, I wanted to note that there on the brain dumps part of exactly what you said around no judgment. Like, we're not converging yet. Give yourself the time and space. Give yourself an hour or two to just diverge and get it all out, no matter how crazy it feels. And trust that you can like come back to the process after that.
I was just fully reminiscing whilst you was talking about that, when one of my first jobs in creative advertising, I was working for this boutique agency in Leeds, and everybody was on different accounts. So you would be looking after different brands and different types of projects and all sorts of things. But we'd do these brainstorming sessions where anybody could go. So you didn't have to be your account. First of all, that was really fun / scary, because at that time I was quite junior, and it meant like I was going to be in a mix of people. And if I said something, it's really scary to be like, that was a stupid suggestion. But they really tried to foster this culture of no judgment in these sessions. Like, no idea is too silly. Because you have to start with madness to bring it down to, and like we think it's madness, but actually some of the ideas that you might think are mad are there's something in that. Like, why does that sound crazy? If it sounds crazy, there's probably something super interesting and unique about
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
hasn't been done yet, or hasn't been looked at in this way. That was a really interesting like learning to be in those, and there was no judgment, no suggestion was too silly. But I remember there was like one or two people who did, like, in my mind, I was like, everything they say is insane, but they were always like, please come to this session. They wanted the kooks in the session because they came up with things, and that
Yeah.
90% of it wasn't doable, wasn't within budget, didn't
Yeah.
fit the brand, but the 10% of the ideas that they came up with, there was actually some magic in that ended up being somehow carried through to what became reality. And it was a really interesting learning for me as a junior creative to be in a space like that. I'm not saying, oh, and ever since then, I never judge ideas. Bullshit. Like, I'm constantly judging and trying not to. But it was helpful to make that shift
Yeah.
early on, or like see that difference.
Especially in such like an agency environment. That's not you in a home office figuring things out. That's people on the clock, and creativity and thinking outside the box being something that's valued in that organization. That's really cool.
Yeah. I would say like a way to maybe implement this, especially if you're a solopreneur, freelancer who works by yourself, business owner, maybe there's two of you in the team or something, is almost consider all your different ideas as coming from lots of different people at the agency, and welcome.
That's cool.
There's that mad part, there's that kook
Yeah.
in you that is like, what about this? What about a hot air balloon?
Yeah.
That comes out with something crazy.
Yeah.
Don't judge them. They remember that probably the 10% of their ideas ends up being what's going to be most interesting. So yeah, that's more, I guess, a skill in terms of brainstorming and not disqualifying your own ideas, but it's very useful right at the start, so that you don't end up like, if your judgmental voices are too loud, you won't even take that first step. I have another thought that almost slightly contradicts where I started here. Is sometimes if there's a project or an idea that I'm really excited about, but for some reason can't get started on, and maybe I have done that brain dump and it's just stayed as a note somewhere, or scribbles. Sometimes starting with the part of the project that seems the most exciting, like appeal to that dopamine within you,
Yeah.
the part that feels novel, and maybe it doesn't seem logical, but if you can do something, you are getting started. And sometimes I'm maybe gonna out myself a little bit here. I'm a self-taught designer, and sometimes with projects that I'm like, oh, I'm just not sure how this is gonna turn out, I don't really follow the process as much to begin with, because there's like maybe a block in me of like, I'm not actually sure how this is going to look, so I'm procrastinating.
Yeah.
And sometimes to get over that, I'll just skip to like designing an asset, before the conceptual stage, before all of the like the meaningful multi-layered branding work. I'll just skip to designing an asset because I'm like, that's fun,
Yeah.
I can quickly create an output, and then I can start answering my own questions of like, well, that works, but that doesn't, why doesn't that work? And then go back.
That's
So
cool.
sometimes skipping forward into a step that's absolutely not chronological in terms of like how you should be doing this,
Yeah.
can help to just like trip that. And also, there's rarely a way in which you should be doing something. It's just doing something.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Is I think some of this avoidance of just starting, I know for me, has often come from feeling like I'm trying to figure out the way that everyone else does it and be like, what's the pathway? Like, okay, so like, what do they do on day one, and what do they do on day 37? And that used to really keep me kind of caught on some of my projects before I realized that like most people are making it up. And even those people with like the correct procedure, what was the correct procedure 2 years ago is now basically obsolete in many creative fields because of evolving tech and many things we won't rabbit hole. Like, it's actually a static mindset anyway that is looking for a binary outcome of like, well, you did it right, so it must be good. And it's like, that doesn't exist in what we do. And what I like about what you're describing is that you're actually knowingly doing it the improper way. You're going against all logic in terms of design flow, to skip that and get your brain firing and creative and in the flow state of designing and building. Also to like remind yourself that you can do it, I imagine.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I can actually just design stuff and make it. I think you make such a good point, because we often assume that there is a secret way that we haven't figured out, or like the more experienced people will be doing it in this like templated, correct way. And sure, there's people out there with a process, there's people out there that follow a formula, but most of the time, everybody's just making it up. And how did a formula and a template get made? Somebody made it up, and then someone else was like, oh, I like that, you know? So who's to say that the new, unusual way that you start something is not the way? I think sometimes not being like professionally trained in something can be quite helpful. And you know, lots of people will judge, especially if you spent a lot of money on education and then you see somebody self-taught doing it a different way. You can very easily get on your high horse and be like, well, that's not how we do it, blah blah blah. But regardless of where you sit on that in your industry or in your craft, if you're judging other people in the way that they do things, what you're actually doing is judging yourself and blocking yourself whenever you want to do something slightly differently, whenever you want to do anything, because we naturally will judge ourselves, assume that we don't know what we're doing. The human way is to like be like, oh, I'm sure I'm you know, being insecure about something. Start wherever you feel and see how you go from there.
I just remembered an experiment two other filmmaker friends and I ran. Gosh, it would have been about 6-7 years ago now. Yeah, 7 or 8 actually. And we all wanted to get better at development, at the process of how you actually communicate your idea for a film or a TV show. And we set ourselves this goal of a pitch a week, and we called it 52 pitches, and I think we did 4. So take from that what you will. But basically we owed each other every week. We decided at the top what, like a full pitch deck is a massive process, and we weren't doing that, but we would be like, all right, logline, synopsis, audience, thematic, tone, style, just kind of do 2 to 3 pages on your idea and send it to each other. And there are 2 of the projects that came from that one is mine and one is one of my friends that we still actually are like working on in the future all these years later. But that was a really freeing process, because what we did is looked at a template. We looked at what was in a pitch deck, and we went, instead of trying to perfect a pitch deck based on a project that we're like deeply invested in, why don't we just grow the muscle of how to communicate ideas in this format? And so it was like this interesting growth exercise of starting to use the language more, which meant that when we were then moving on to projects that were like, no, we are actually pitching this out to market, we didn't have to spend as much time figuring out what's the formatting and what do we need to include and what does that normally speak to, because we'd actually just like gone through reps of doing that. And I think that that's something that can help too, is to, if you're like, no, I am really interested in how other people do it, I want to know what their templates are. Like, I'm a sucker for a template. Do it on something that isn't the project that you're like, this is my life purpose. Like, get in the flow of starting something that is almost like a scrap sketch where you're never going to finish that painting, but you're going to sketch it out. And that will help you to then bring your idea in through a process that feels warmed up and a muscle that feels accessible, versus like the pressure of, oh, I want this to work. I've been carrying this dream for years. It means so much to me. It's like, I want to back this as my life's purpose. That's really scary to start with a blank page if you haven't spent a lot of time on a blank page recently. So there's something in that for me as well, of like, start in parallel and you'll realize you can, and then you can pull that back into the thing that you actually want to start. Yeah,
I see what you're saying. So giving it a go with something that feels like it carries less weight for you, so you're not overthinking it as much. So then you're like, oh, well, if I'm going to do it for this, then surely I could do it for that. I was just, as you were talking about that and reflecting on, you know, having done that a long time ago, I think there's something in like youth and being younger and being a kid where you just have this, you have less inhibitions and you're not overthinking things as much. And that whole idea of like playing, like playing pretend, And, you know, you would just step into roles as a kid and you'd be like, I'm going to be a teacher today. I loved being a teacher and
Same.
having a register and being like, oh, that idea of like playing around with something and not thinking this is going to be my biggest, best thing that I've ever done, but just allowing yourself to explore, allowing yourself to play pretend. So, for example, play pretend that you're going to send this pitch deck, but it's just pretend. You're not
Yeah.
actually going to send it. And if you take that, you know, maybe you make it and you're like, actually, not bad, but you can convince yourself, and like, I'm not saying you then have to send it because otherwise it doesn't work, but play pretend that you're going to make a piece of art, play pretend that you're going to record a song, get the equipment out, download the software that you need,
Yeah.
and just play pretend for yourself, have that recording, have that document private on your desktop, whatever. It's just your own little play space. And maybe nothing will ever come of that particular file, and that's absolutely fine. But you built the muscle of trying, of giving it a go. Or maybe it was not so bad and you sent that file to someone,
Yeah.
or you realized you could do it and you did a second version and then you sent that file to someone. I think lowering the expectations of yourself of like, this is supposed to be fun. Like, why do you want to be a creative? Because you want to create, and creativity is inherently playful because it requires you to be curious and not know all the answers when you start. So stop expecting yourself to know all the answers. Just give it a go and have a little play around.
Yeah.
I just want to give a little example. I've been editing my own videos and like getting better with the effects and things. And because I edit for clients, so like part of my job is social media, content creation for clients, and then I make things for myself, I sometimes forget that I can just like do weird shit and it's fine. You know, it's not illegal to put like sound effects like boop, beep, beep, boop, or like magic butterflies, you know, and I'm like, "Oh, I can just do whatever I want." And I started a little series called Trashcraft
Yeah,
Tuesdays,
I've
which
been seeing it.
actually, honestly, it's very similar, like very in line with what we're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
I've called it Trashcraft Tuesdays to lower the barrier to entry for myself because I'm overthinking making things. So it's trash, let's just do it. That's been really helpful. But when I was editing the video, I was like, oh, I could make like a little jingle for this. And I've never even thought about this, but I record myself often.
Yeah.
But then I just recorded myself saying like Trashcraft Tuesdays and then like changed the pitch and like laid it. I don't know anything
So
about music
cool.
production or
Yeah.
anything like that. I was like, you know, you're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like you're allowed to do that. Like,
Crazy.
and like that seems so obvious. And someone listening who maybe makes music or edits videos or makes films is like, yeah. But for me, it was a realization. I was like, oh yeah, I can just have fun with this and make a silly little jingle.
Oh, that brings up a really interesting, like quite a specific thought about how to just start, which won't be relevant to everyone. But you're a great example. So you're a designer who also then you need to design for your own brands. And I've heard you talk before about how much easier it is to design for a client than when you're designing for yourself. And
Always.
actually,
Yeah.
one of the Enough Talk audits that came through, there was a note in there about like, this is what I do for a living. So my standards are really high about how I do it for myself. And I was like, oh, that's a good call out of when we have these skills professionally. If you have a project you want to begin that's like off the clock or is right now just for you and you're not sure if you're going to put it out there for sale or offer it as a service or whatever, but you're like curious about it, I feel like we can do a bad job of like swapping hats and being like, I'm just a pedestrian right now. Like, this does not have to be the scale and level that I would give to a client. It can just be for me. But that like gap between the output that you have professionally and the like output that you want for yourself, there's a time problem in there and like an iteration problem. And over here, the clients pay you for that time. And that's one of the reasons you don't have as much time to do this. So like recognizing perfectionism that might be keeping you from just starting because you're like, oh, there's so much work I have to do to like actually do this to my level. And it's like, yes, But like, just take an hour, just 1 hour today. You do not have to do the 400 hours to get there. Let yourself indulge in the project, in the part of it that is, like you were saying before, exciting to you, and worry about the logistics of your own standards of professional excellence later. Because otherwise you just like won't get there.
Yeah, that is a great like mindset shift, or like a flip, to almost think of yourself as not like a paying client, but maybe like a friend that's asked you a favor, like, hey, do you mind making this thing for me? Where the standards are maybe like, oh, I'm probably not going to dedicate my entire week to this, but like I'll give it a go, and like I've got a bit of energy for it. Treat yourself like that, like a friend is like, hey, you're good at this. Would you mind like whipping a logo up?
Yeah.
Designers listening, everyone's favorite request, just whip up a logo in 5 minutes. But yeah, thinking about it in that way, where you're lowering your own expectations of what's on the other side, I think is really helpful. I'm just thinking about some like really practical things.
I have one.
But okay, well, you go.
Body doubling. Go ask a friend if you can meet in your lounge room on a Tuesday night or at a cafe or whatever, and can both of you bring a thing, and you put your phones on silent or even do not disturb so you don't get the buzz, and just like do it. You and I, every time you and I have, because we have like standing co-work sessions together, sometimes in person, sometimes online, and we're always like, wow, that seemed like such a big problem before we spent 20 minutes talking about it and then now working on it. It's like, when will we learn that like the sheer process of having another warm human being who even isn't working on the same problem as you, but their brain is switched on. They're also doing something a bit hard or scary or fun. Like, do that. Just find a buddy. And if you don't have one, like, you can literally do it with us. We do it all the time in the greenhouse, and set the time aside.
I would say that was one of my biggest, most useful tools in terms of becoming somebody who starts things and makes things and sees things to the end, is just being in a room with another person, whether IRL or digitally, and saying, I'm working on this, like saying it out loud, and breaking it down to a task, not the overall project, not like, oh, I'm working on my product launch. No. What are you doing in this session? What is the task? And if you don't know the difference between life areas, projects, tasks, then I want to say we've got a ton of trainings on these kinds of things, and I've got a few videos on our Instagram, but we definitely should maybe do an episode on it. Don't treat your 2-hour session as like project. Pick a task for that 2-hour body doubling, because it makes a huge difference. Also, lower the barrier to entry for yourself. Depending on what your craft is, get the stuff out, have it ready. If it's a microphone, have it out, plug it in, and maybe don't even expect yourself to record. Just open up what you need to and leave it for the next time.
So good.
Step 1, get the materials out.
Yeah, I like that. I have a thought that I feel like is controversial because it's the opposite of what we normally say to do. You know how we talk a lot about like, tell someone that you want to do this and create accountability for that project. I am playing around with one particular project at the moment, and I am like dying to tell you about it. And I've almost told you about it like 2 weeks in a row. And I keep holding myself back because I'm like, I enjoy talking about projects and what they can be with you so much that I'm worried that I'll be like satisfied, and that will be the end of what I do on it then. I can't remember if you and I were talking about this, about there's research that says like sometimes you get the same amount of dopamine from telling someone about something you're going to do than actually doing it.
Yeah.
And so I'm playing a little bit with this project as like a personal experiment where normally, and like Jono knows about it because I am forcing him to be a co-conspirator in it. I need his skills, but like letting it sit inside me a bit longer so that like I'm excited about it on my own supply almost, and then doing a bunch of work about it. And then I'm going to tell you about it at the point where there are some stakes up, where I've like already done a bunch of groundwork, and then I need you to hold me accountable to the scary public bit of it.
Oh my God.
Anyway, I think that could be worth a try if you're someone who's always talking to your friends about like the next exciting project, and then they ask you 2 weeks later how it went, and you have that shudder of like, forgot. Maybe shh, and just like channel that into the paper, into the pod, like whatever the tool is. Take the hour you would spend getting excited about it with a friend, and just one time see what happens when you invest it in the work itself.
Well, it's very apt for enough talk, right? It's like, I think, the satisfaction you get of being like, I'm working on this thing, and like it's going to be really cool, and like I'm like, about a project that I am talking a lot about at the moment, and that I recognize exactly what you're saying. It almost feels like there's a sense of achievement by simply telling people about it, even though not much has been done, although now things are happening. But that initial feeling of, well, I've told someone, and therefore that's my first
They
step.
think I'm a genius.
I'm so smart, but it's just conceptual at that point, and ideas are great, but they're just ideas.
They're also really cheap.
They are.
Action is expensive, and we need more
Action
of
is
it.
expensive, exactly.
I feel like we should recap, but I can't remember back that far. What did we? Our just starting.
First one was, well, I said brain dumps.
Yes.
Just get all of the ideas out without judgment. Don't.
All the scribbles. Maybe not like that, because that's
no, like that is fine.
There's 2 exclamation marks next to a word in caps letters.
Yeah, but there's no rules for the first brain dump. No rules, no ideas too silly, no thought is ridiculous. In fact, bring in your most ridiculous brainstormer to help you, and that could be within your own brain.
It's probably me, because I don't remember what that urgent word was about, and I wrote it a week ago. Now I'm stressing, being like, what does that mean?
What does it mean?
So if you want someone who won't judge your ideas, me, because I'll forget about them straight away. Okay, brain dumping, brainstorming.
I said, I've forgotten now.
We were talking
all about brilliant ideas.
like using templates and tools to loosen up, but you don't have to use it on the dream project. So like getting yourself in flow.
I said start with the task that you're most excited about. Like, don't think you have to start at the beginning. Let yourself choose.
Eat dessert.
Yeah. Start at dessert. Like, play into that dopamine that is calling you. Don't stop there, but start there and see what happens. You will gain information from taking action more than you will thinking about it. And
then try some body doubling. Works, so, honestly, like, just remember that. That's so helpful. And do the opposite of what we always say about creating accountability, and shut your mouth. Your cute little ideas heavy mouth. And just like let that drive you for a bit, and then share it. Just maybe sit on it for like a week extra than you'd normally.
I know a way that this can be like materialized. Keyword, materialized. Maybe before you tell someone, have something to show.
Oh, that hit me. That hurts.
Because
and not just a domain.
No. Guys, look at this domain I'm about to purchase. Before you tell someone your fabulous new idea, have something to show them. Yeah,
that's a great... Oh my gosh, that would change everything. Imagine, we'd be like, I'm going to show you this in 2 months' time.
Yeah. I think I'm going to apply this now to whenever my creative friends, and this includes you, tell me about their ideas. I'm going to be like, come back to me when you've got something to show.
Pics or it didn't happen. You're like, I don't believe you, you're a liar.
This is not real. This is all in your head.
Do you know how much I would love that? I am motivated by trash talk. This would work. Your Trash Craft Tuesdays can just be trash talking me.
Yeah, I'm going to trash talk your ideas.
Write me an ugly letter. Dear Danielle.
Oh my God. New podcast name, Trash Talk. Next week, guys. New name.
We have to make it. We can't tell them until we've done it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting like, this is like some sort of Inception
I know.
experience now.
It's fine. A surprise is coming. We'll tell you about it later. You'll never guess.
You'll never guess. I think we've delivered some juice today, and I'm galvanized.
Oh, I hate that word, but
Galvanized. Why don't I
it's like
that
the
word?
third time you've told me you're galvanized this week. But you have seemed very galvanized.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
And you are doing galvanized-ish things, so maybe it's on me.
I am. I'm just
G'd up.
going around galvanized, waking them in the morning. Galvanized. Maybe I'm listening to that song. Is it Prodigy? No. Pendulum? There's a song called Galvanized.
I don't want it.
Anyway.
But I'm happy for you. I'm excited. Just the old-fashioned kind of galvanized. All right. We're done.
We're done.
Yeah.
The episode's done.
See you next week.